7th right now.
Hey, Spence. You ready? You ready for this?
Yeah,
Can you please stop that, Dad? Please stop.
I have been greatly blessed to be put in the hands of great teachers to mold us through a most memorable and excellent education, and to grow among friends that love God. I remember the older grades always telling the younger kids how grim and grueling their future classes were going to be the next year. But fortunately, these rumors didn't come true for us. The teachers cared about how well we students understood the material and made sure to ingrain it in our memories, not just so we could pass the current tests decently, but so we could apply the knowledge we had gained in our real life someday. The teacher everyone would groan about if he was going to teach extra or substitute, Mr. Gooley, actually helped me the most to master the concepts I was learning, like algebra and geometry. He has a pleasantly gruff voice, but an unpleasantly tough course. He made math more in-depth than anyone preferred it, and providing us with annoyingly challenging examples was his job, and he did that job well. After an English class with Mrs. Contreras, she talked to me at her desk about some work I had done, and told me that I was a diamond in the rough. I had no idea what that meant when she told me. But she wanted me to do the best that I could, and not to be lazy and ungrateful of the gifts God gave me. The Christian example that our teachers gave were very important. Every day since kindergarten class, my class sat down for morning devotions led by the teacher, prayed with the teacher, and with the teacher, we're often disciplined. We're often disciplined by the teacher. I remember all the lessons that had to be beaten into us by them. Like one time, when Pete and I had trash duty, we had an empty trash with wheels on the bottom, and a long stretch of downhill pavement to the back. We agreed that I should get a ride back in the empty can. When we got to the back doors, he began to spin the trash as fast as he could in circles. Of course, Mr. Armstrong came out unexpectedly to tell Peter to stop being noisy when my head popped out of the trash. We stood staring at each other for a moment. He said, "I don't have time for this. Saturday cleanup for both of them." As we toiled that Saturday, it was pouring rain. Mrs. Johnson was one of our most memorable teachers. Her laughing uncontrollably in class had been etched in my brain. But she wasn't afraid to teach us what the world is really like, teach us what things really meant, teach us how to think deeper than we would ever choose to on our own. The friends I've had for the last decade of my life were and will be a big part of my life. The one with the most eccentric and pronounced personality is Nathan Clausen, and something has to be said about him. One of my earliest memories of him was in kindergarten one day. We were all going about our quiet business when this ear-splitting scream sounded nearby. As everyone turned to see Nathan in a state of agony, hands clamped over his ears, mouth gaping wide, and eyes tight shut, our teacher, Mrs. Morjohn, was quick to order him to quiet down, at least until she realized the actual source of the sound was the flashing fire alarm on the wall. He also was the first in our class to participate in getting sent to Mr. Armstrong's office. I still remember the threat Mrs. Morjohn gave us. "You know where Nathan is? He's in the principal's office. And if you got out of flying, you're going to be next." It worked. I stayed out of his office for a couple of years. Nathan added a lot of jolts into our routine days here at Grace Valley, but he also taught me a lot of good things by force, like how I should act as a Christian friend and being a good role model for others. David's character is kind of the opposite of Nathan. He was quiet, expressionless, and stoic in most classes but history and PE. He set a godly example for us during times of calm, but in sports, he was dangerous. Like Peter Smith, he was driven to win at all costs. My good friend Josiah Lopez was a strange boy. He has an infatuation with Star Wars and computers, and eventually began to accept, even love, his role as class geek. He taught me a lot how to be patient with his constant jabbering about Jedi Knights and Sith Lords. My friends may be funny, but they are also good, noble, and true. They strengthen me like iron sharpens iron. As I move on to the next phase of my life, I will retain a profitable mental and spiritual education, as well as archives of various recollections. My years here at Grace Valley have been one to remember, and I hope their influence on me when I was young will rub off on my life to come. Thank you.